Ahoj všichni!
Hi everybody! Today we're going to answer a question that's been given to us quite a few times. People have asked about cravings and transiting and the struggles they have with that, and what kind of advice can we give about that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Yeah. I think we probably have the same opinion about this, that the best way to leave behind cooked food addiction is to fully abstain from it. You know, we have to understand that out there's a lot of drug addicts, alcoholics, and they have a support system where they can go somewhere to a rehabilitation centre perhaps and go fully off of whatever it is they're addicted to. And I think for cooked food we have to acknowledge that it is an addiction just as much as alcoholism is, or drug addiction. So the best way that you can get rid of those cravings is to fully leave cooked food behind. Now, I know that's not exactly easy.
It's not easy, but as you say, unfortunately we don't have those support groups. Also, there is big division among raw food people, I think, about this.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people said you have to transit, and so I don't want to get into all of those things. We have somebody who comes with, you should eat cook after 4 or raw after 4 or whatever.
Raw till 4, they call it.
Raw till 4.
Yeah.
That's dangerous. Those beliefs are actually dangerous, because this is like if you say to alcoholic who is already in a rehab doing the programs to manage the addiction, if you tell him after 4 o'clock have a bottle of wine, that's perfectly fine. If you manage to don't drink all day, you're perfectly fine with that. That's exactly the same thing. If you're seeking raw food in your life, don't mix raw with cooked. That only going to make problems for you. If you have to give in the cravings of the cooked food, eat that day just cooked food, don't mix it with fruit, just drink the water, eat cooked food, just give your body a poison, and you would feel the impact. But if you eat fruit as well, you will generate a much bigger conflict, because those two things together, they behave very differently.
Yeah,
I have that experience.
Yeah.
I'm talking from my experience.
Yeah. No, she's absolutely correct that once you give in to a craving,
you open the gate.
Yeah, you open the gate and you create this desire that the body has for more of it.
No.
So you can't just have a little bit in moderation and then go back. It doesn't work. It's like saying, I'm just going to have one chip. You can't have one chip, because nobody can do that. It's like you're going to get craving afterwards.
And that's the good point.
Pizza craving.
Once you have such a substance which is highly addictive, even you have a little bit, everybody who tried to give up alcohol knows that very well, or cigarettes. That's a very good example, very comprehensive to everybody, because who ever drink alcohol or smoke cigarettes and try to give up. I was giving up smoke many times, and each time, if I have even one little draw on a cigarette, that was for me it. I went back to it. Even I didn't smoke for a year. So don't underestimate the addiction in what we want to say.
It is the single most addictive substance, and there's more than one substance, obviously. We generally, as a species, are hooked on cooked food from the moment we're born, even through the mother's milk, if we're fortunate enough to get mother's milk.
Already when we conceived,
yeah.
Because what our mother eats,
what they eat,
that's already coming into our bloodstream. So as soon as we conceive.
Yeah, and the moment we start eating solid foods, even more so, because parents in general, they don't have this understanding of what food is, really. So generally speaking, 99.99% or whatever it is in the world of people, from the moment they can start eating, they'll start eating food, which is an addictive substance. So it's actually much more difficult to break free from than alcoholism or cigarettes or other drugs. It's much more difficult because we've had it for such a long time. And the other thing that makes it really difficult is that society in general has no idea. People out there don't have any idea that they're on a substance which is detrimental to their health. So it's very, very difficult because you're unlikely to get any understanding or support from family or friends. There are no real support groups. The best thing you can do is find other people that are doing the same thing and support each other with it. Because I'm not going to try and pretend that it's easy to go from one day eating cooked to another day eating raw. And without any kind of doubt in my mind, the vast majority of people that try and do that are going to fail. They're going to fall back and start eating foods that they know they shouldn't. And then they'll come back again. And you may have to do this many times before you succeed. But just bear in mind that you're not doing yourself any favours by eating cooked food. I certainly went through many years of doing this. And the thing that helped me most, more than anything, was being with somebody else who felt the same way. Like Fatika is much stronger than me. She never suffered the same kind of cravings that I went through. I think she was more naturally born fruitarian than I was. I'm more like the general run-of-the-mill person out there that had to go through that tough time where I was constantly being tempted by cooked food, the smells of it and everything. So I sympathise with everybody out there that's going through this.
Well, I have to say that I didn't have a clue about nothing. Not the cravings, not the addiction, totally nothing. I was just blank paper when I started eating only fruit. And because I loved fruit and suddenly I can have such a variety and it was everywhere, it was not a problem for me to just do that change. That was for me actually opposite what most people would say, just the fruit, that may be difficult, I don't know how I'm going to do it, blah, blah, blah. But for me, that was what I wanted actually. So for me was, hooray, I have a green light. I can just eat fruit every day, that's my decision, now I'm going to do it. And within about a week or so, I started craving potatoes. And we lived opposite road was this Red Rooster restaurant that was already here in Australia. And I love roosters. And I just look at that rooster and there was a full moon next to it. I see it like today, I look out of the window on that rooster and I was crying because you can even smell how those takeaway shops pour the smell out to tempt people. So that's how I felt. I smelled it and I was crying. I said, oh, I so want potato. But for me, I just...
We want to make that clear actually. She wasn't craving the Red Rooster, she was craving the
potato chips.
The potato chips.
Potato chip.
Yeah. And there's one thing that I'd like to make very clear, that if you're going to do any steps at all in transiting, if you're eating a normal standard American diet, as they say, a standard cooked food diet, with animal flesh and vegetables and potatoes and things that are cooked, and you want to go to a fruit diet because you've understood, you've had a sort of aha moment where you thought, wow, this makes sense, I should start eating raw and eating more fruit, a lot of fruit or only fruit. The one step that I think that you should take, if you're going to take any steps at all, is to cut out all animal products first of all. I don't think that there is any genuine craving issues that you should have when you do that. I know from my own experience, when I went vegan in the 1980s, it was an overnight thing, more or less for me. I mean, I'd had a couple of things in the fridge which I got rid of, but there wasn't any feelings afterwards that, I really feel like eating this or that, because the truth is today, there's all kinds of things that you can eat to substitute that. So there's no reason to not go vegan overnight.
Also, today's interesting for me it was, when I stopped eating meat, I never have a crave. Never, ever once I craved the meat. Never. That's very curious. But yes, I crave to cook food. But I think because I never ate in my life takeaway, it just didn't exist in communism, those McDonald's and what have you. and everything was cooked at home from scratch by my mother. And when I grew up, when I was independent, I ate mainly fruit and vegetables, mostly raw if I can. When I was child too, when I had opportunity, I would eat everything raw, and it was fruit and vegetables. So I didn't like anything from grains really. So I believe because of this, my body wasn't so toxic, so addicted to um, this MSG alone.
Yeah,
So,
salty, fatty.
and because of, I always want to eat fruit anyway since I can remember. So it was easy for me. Yet I had a cravings, but what helped me, not knowingly, I realized that with the years, that very quickly when I became fruitarian, me and my ex-husband, we start traveling, and we only go to remote places without people around, and we have with us only fruit, and we bought most of the fruit on the road, because those days there were so many fruit stalls by the road, so we didn't even ever go to supermarket, and it was just perfect like this. So there was no cravings, and I got the first cravings when you move back in the city, when you walk around and you smell the smells. And this is what happened. And that's what I learned. The environment have a huge impact. Don't underestimate your environment.
Yeah, absolutely. You're surrounded by temptation all the time.
Constantly.
When you're living in the city, there's constant smells, people going out for dinner, they're taking takeaways, there's all kinds of food temptation that you're surrounded by all the time. And if you're living with somebody else who doesn't understand what you're doing, then they're going to be tempting you all the time. They're going to be always cooking things, and it's just so difficult. And unlike Katinka, I came from eating all kinds of heavy foods. I used to love fried foods, and I was crazy about biscuits and cakes and all kinds of things I carried on eating even after I became vegan. I just found alternatives. I found cakes that were vegan, and biscuits that were vegan, and chocolate that was vegan, and sausages that were vegan. All these things that I was eating before I was vegan, I was still eating after I was. But for me, that understanding of don't eat animals, because that's not who I was in my heart. I knew that I wasn't somebody that could go around stabbing little pigs and sheep and cows and strangling chickens. That wasn't me, which is why I became vegan. And for me, that was incredibly important. And even though I consider myself fruitarian, eating fruitarian, I still very much consider myself vegan too, and I like to push that, because even if it's too far ahead for you to be thinking about eating raw, stop eating animals. Stop, because you're abusing animals. You're probably someone who in your heart always sees an animal and thinks, wow, so cute. But the truth is that you're behaving like a monster toward them if you eat them.
We need a skill to push the temptation away. We need to say no very firmly. Also, when I go for shopping and I got those smells and I felt like, I want to buy something and cook something, I would say, I will do it tomorrow. And it worked for me. We each have to find within ourselves the formula, try different things. For me, it worked the best. I have it tomorrow. Sometimes I gave in. I would have a problem to admit to it, because I felt like if I admit to it, the raw food community will fully judge me and they never take me seriously. So I kept it to myself. But I gave in a few times, of course. I think nobody can really manage, never do that. But I very quickly learned doing that. When I do it, I feel very sick, because my body is very sensitive.
The one thing that I want to say to help you get rid of cravings is the understanding, it's an understanding that I've realised over the years, is that with craving comes apathy. Because you may understand that you're doing yourself harm, like let's say you're smoking cigarettes, you can understand that you're doing yourself harm, but the craving is making you apathetic towards your own health. So it doesn't matter that you know that you might end up with lung cancer, you still smoke anyway because you don't care enough about yourself, and that's the craving, the addiction, which has made you apathetical. So the way you combat apathy is with empathy. You have to start empathizing, and every single addiction out there is detrimental at some level, whether to yourself or to others.
Yes.
Or mostly both. Like when you're not vegan and you're eating animals, it's because you don't care about animals. That's the truth. You don't care. You don't care that the animals are being slaughtered, what they have to experience in their very, very short lives. That's an apathy. So the way you can get over that is to start empathizing. Start realizing what you're actually really doing. Become conscious of what's going on in your life and what your actions are really causing, whether it's to somebody else or to yourself. Have empathy for yourself too, because cooked food is not doing you any good. It's damaging you. It's damaging you over a longer period. Why do you think it's so common for people to get cancers and diabetes, all these kind of things which are completely unnecessary, and they're caused because people are addicted, not just to alcohol and cigarettes, but to cooked food too, because it's very, very rare for somebody to die of old age without any health issues at all. Mostly when people die, it's because they've had health issues which have built up over a lifetime and just become too much for the body to handle. So empathy over apathy, that's really the way forward. That's kind of the only real way forward, is to become more empathetic on all levels.
Yes, also it's true, like I eat raw fruit for so many years, and when I went to dentist and they asked for the diseases I've gotten, they asking, they have diabetes, you have to... Nothing. They can't believe it. They look like, are you sure? Because everybody else who come to them, they have at least one thing. And they can't believe I have nothing. And this is what I want to say. Everybody has something because they all eat cooked food. They may even think they eat healthy because they have a broccoli or carrot or what have you. But it doesn't do much for you. It's definitely better cooked than if you have a meat and a lot of fat and fried everything and stuff. Yes, it is better, but better evil, it's still evil. Better hard is still hard.
We're not telling people what to do, because really people have got to reach their own conclusions. And if they start to realise why they shouldn't do it, then we're just here to offer help for how and why. But we're not telling anybody what to do.
No.
That should be made very clear.
We're only saying it's toxic.
Yeah, it's toxic.
And what you do with it, that's all.
It's toxic. It's up to you, Anyway, I think we've answered the question. It's been a long chat today, so we'll end this for now and see you next week.
Yeah, we love you, and don't forget about love. That it's most important thing you have in your life. So cherish it, take care of it, give it and receive it. Until next time, all the best to you all. We love you. Bye.